Yeah, so I'm Leo. I've been living in Finland since 2015. I've been working as a recruiter here for 8 or 9 years because I did a bit of recruitment in Britain as well. I've worked in a whole lot of different industries, from sort of home services, consulting, when I've done everything from gaming, blockchain, green tech. I've worked in cyber, automotive, and I'm currently working in aerospace. Um, I've also seen a lot of the, let's say, ups and downs of startups and business in Finland. I've been laid off a bunch of times. I've been through company buyouts as well. So a lot of experience to bring.
Nice. So I would like to explain how we will be moving on because some might have joined just now. First of all, this is recorded as you have noticed, and it will be published online on YouTube. And the link will be sent to everyone who has registered for the webinar. So don't worry if you need to drop off earlier, you will get the link so you can watch it later. And today we are purely focusing on CV reviews. And for that, we have job ads as well, because as we hopefully know that every single CV should be created for a particular job where you're applying for. It will not get you far if you use the same CV to apply for 100 jobs. And to note already now, there will be the second webinar with Leo that will be a part of Brutally Honest series. It will not be recorded, and there you can ask any questions about how to get hired in Finland. So if you have some specific questions or general questions, you can wait for the next time. Otherwise, we will be reviewing 5 job ads, 5 CVs, and if there is time at the end, let's answer some questions regarding CVs as well, and maybe cover letters. But first, I would like to focus on the job ads and CVs that we have received already. Otherwise, it might happen that there is no time. What I need to mention as well that all the people who have sent us their CVs, we could only take 5. I'm really sorry if you've tried to send, but were not selected for this one. Everyone has given us their consent to show these CVs online. I want that to be clear as well, because this is going to be recorded. All right. So, Leo, if you're ready, we can
Yeah,
start.
always.
So we are starting with a job ad. And by the way, Leo has received all the job ads in advance, but he has not seen CVs, actual CVs. So it will be kind of a real life experience for everyone, including Leo. So Leo, would you like to share a few things about this data analyst
Absolutely.
job ad? Something that we need to pay attention to.
Absolutely. I mean, I think more generally when it comes to job ads is they are a collaboration between the recruiter and the hiring manager. And often the hiring manager wants to have very specific things. And in a recruiter's experience, it might be that we have to write those in a certain way, or we have to omit things, or we have to add certain things. So I think it's quite important when you're reading a job ad to really try to be able to identify the most specific bits that you can that relate to the job. And what I've tried to do is highlight some of those here in yellow. And then anything I put in pink is something that I'm a little bit confused by. And I can try and explain why and what I think in my experience as a recruiter that might mean. So this data analyst role, from reading the description, it looks relatively entry level. It looks like there's a lot of support available, which is quite nice. And what I think they're really going to be wanting to see from a CV is research skills, because that's mentioned twice. And maybe some, I mean, in a perfect world, some personal projects where you've done something similar. So some of the things I've highlighted. The first one, as I said, is research capabilities. it says, it's mentioned research twice. So I think if you can put some experience on a CV that shows that you have been doing research, whether qualitative or quantitative, that'll be a big thumbs up. The second part as well, that you will be verifying the business names and opening hours are correct and checking distances from start points to end points. This is a really sort of practical example of what you're going to be doing. So if you have experiences around this, or even doing something similar, that would absolutely be something to put on a CV. Because if you can show you can do that, you can show that you can do the job. Moving down, excellent local knowledge of your home country and geography and culture in Finland. These are going to be really difficult to show on your CV unless you've, I don't know, written something or stuff like this. A lot of some of these things, the way that you'll bring it up is if you have a bio on your CV, a little about me, you can write something about that. You might say, hey, one of my interests is, hiking in Finland, which means I have a really good understanding of the geography and culture of Finland. Or maybe you've written travel articles, that sort of thing. The final yellow thing is this knowledge of search engines, map applications. Here, any experience you've got in working with that, whether it's like a hobby project or any work experience you've got where you've done this, would be really important to bring up, because again, it's showing the recruiter and the hiring manager that you've kind of already done it, which means that you're going to be a lot more interesting. And then
I would like to keep the questions for the end of it, if possible. Please write it down for yourself, and then you can bring it up, because I would really like to go through all the CVs that we have received for this call.
And then the final thing in pink, must be living in Finland for a minimum of 5 consecutive years. I was a bit confused by this at first, but I think at least probably what they're getting at is that they want someone who's lived here for 5 years, and so who sort of understands the geography and culture of Finland. I think it probably links to that point. And one thing, just before we go to the CV, one thing I always recommend with CVs is that you use the same terms in the CV as they have got in the job description. So for example, if they talk about working knowledge of search engines, map applications, if you have that, literally put working knowledge of search engines, map applications, etc. If you have good knowledge of geography and culture in Finland, put that. The reason for this is that sometimes, when a recruiter's working on roles, we're working on quite a lot at the same time. And so sometimes that practically there isn't that much time to go through, to read a CV in depth. For example, in one of my previous roles, I was working on 30 roles simultaneously, which meant when I was going through CVs, they were mainly technical CVs, but I was looking for very specific things. And I had to be really quite quick to do that. So let's maybe see the CV. So good.
You can see both right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, Leo,
yeah.
it's the first time you see that.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, this is good. This is good. It's well laid out. It's easy to read, which is not always the case for CVs. Is it one? How many pages is it? Just
2 pages.
2 pages. Oh well, 1.5.
Education and skills go to the second one.
That's fine. That's fine. No, that's cool. I wouldn't recommend having a CV over 2 pages. One is optimal, but not always possible, depending on what you're doing. Okay, so what have we got? Office assistant, data entry specialist. That would already be kind of interesting. The reason being is that this role is quite hands-on, as we saw. You'll be verifying names of businesses and opening hours. You'll be checking the distances from starting points. All of that is it's quite hands-on. It's quite practical. You have to be quite accurate with that. And especially with data entry, you do need to be quite accurate. So Proven track record of accurately maintaining detailed records. Again, very interesting. Again, especially for this sort of role. That's going down the experiences. Onboarding classes, Excel spreadsheets. Yeah, all relevant. I'm just I've got the job description open on my screen as well, so I can kind of go up and down a bit more quickly so that yeah. One question would immediately come up here though is must be living in Finland for a minimum of five consecutive years. I can see a date for New York ending in 2023. To me,
Right.
yeah. If now this would absolutely be something I'd want to talk with the hiring manager about, because if that's a hard requirement, this would be an immediate no. But it depends on it so depends on the company and what they mean by that, you know. Because for example, if you were going to join and your work was going to be based in New York, this could be really interesting. If you're going to join and the stuff you'd be doing would be based in Finland, then maybe it wouldn't work. So that would be a question I would have if I were looking at this CV. But again, it depends on what they mean by that.
If you
Um,
get, for example, 100 applications and
mm,
you only have this job description,
mm.
you wouldn't go forward with this CV, right?
Probably not. No, no. Um, Partly because of that 5 year thing. The other thing though is that it's not very tailored to this role. There are some really interesting experiences, and there's certainly experience that I can look at and say, yeah, hey, that's relevant. For example, data entry, working with spreadsheets, that sort of stuff. It all could be useful. But there's nothing, for example, specifically about interests in geography or that sort of thing. But the main sort of 95% of it would be that 5 consecutive years. If that's a hard requirement, in a way, no matter how good the CV is, we can't move forward. If again, big if, because I don't fully understand why that's a requirement.
Right. So I think we can move on to the next one because for every single application, our very big question will be, would you invite
Mm.
this person to a job interview? So for the first one, the answer would be no, if you cannot talk to a hiring manager.
I mean, what I would also say though is that the way that I work as a recruiter, I don't usually reject CVs outright.
Mm-hmm.
I always try to find something I like in them. And then I have a lot of conversations with my hiring managers. I'm talking with them every single day. And so what it means is if I get a CV like this and I can say, hey, is this person going to be working is their work going to be covering the US? Is it going to be covering New York? Because if so, I mean, this person's been living there for ages. That's actually really valuable because they'll have a really good understanding of it. Um, So it's, as I say, based specifically on the job description and that alone, without knowing anything else. No.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right. Thank
yeah.
you for that. I will now bring up the second one. Where is a job at?
Oh, business development summer job. Yeah, this was a fun one. This job ad's really interesting because it talks about a whole lot of different stuff, which can make it quite challenging to tailor a CV to. For example, they talk about data management, business development. Then they jump into AI solutions. So this is quite I say there's a lot to dive into in this job ad. Let's start with the first yellow thing. So when we look at the roles overview, the overview is there to try and tell you a little bit about what you're going to be doing, to give you a flavor of what the job is going to be, and it's quite useful because maybe you read the overview and you think, oh, this is terrible. chances are it's not the job for you. So it's a really good thing to look at and actually just decide, hey, do I like this or not? The first one now we've got is visualize and create materials for the LEAP program, shaping centralized. Yeah. So what I'd love to see on a CV here is someone who's been, either maybe creating decks, maybe, they've been doing that. They've been creating PowerPoint presentations. Do they have experience in maybe the Adobe Creative Suite or Canva or something like that? Again, this looks to be a more sort of entry-level job. So we're not looking for huge amounts of experience. But what we want to see is that you essentially have something that's that the company can train and build on. So we've got, creating materials. If we can pause for a moment, contractual obligations play a crucial role in developing a configuration tool for pricing, engaging in data analysis and collaborating with experts. This is something I thought I'd put in pink, but maybe my internet went out. The reason I put this in pink, or rather I would have, is that it's a lot. There's a lot of different stuff going on here, especially for a summer job. And so I think what if I were applying for this role, I would pick what I'm interested in and just apply and just tailor my CV to that. So I'd say, hey, what have I actually done out of all of this? And then go with that. Because otherwise you're going to be you're spreading yourself too thin, if you understand me, if that expression makes sense. So as I say, there's a lot of different things going on here. So when we go to the what do we expect from you? So if we go down and get all of that, yeah, fantastic. As it says, it's about gaining work experience, so more entry-level job. Many roles don't require previous work experience. And the way I would read this is that, as I say, it's what they're going to be looking for is something that matches what they're currently doing that they can build on. So maybe you've worked with data analysis, maybe you've worked with making creating materials, decks, that sort of thing. And the other thing is they probably want to see that you're interested in learning. And again, this is something to put in your bio, if you have an about me section on your CV. This is something you can put there and say, look, like one of the things I really like doing is learning, is improving my skills. This is kind of what I want to get out of this job. And if we look at the bottom, it also says, learn and enhance your skills with a network of professionals. So again, really, really, we would really want to see that that you are, you're interested in learning. So if we scroll down a bit more, yeah, and there's some quite interesting offers as well, including occupational healthcare, which is nice. Summer trainee, fantastic, yeah. So this to me would be quite a difficult job to tailor a CV for. And I'm really interested to see what the CV looks like. I'm excited. This is good. So if we pause for a moment, we already have a bio. Let's see what that says. Fantastic. Okay. So yeah, the bio, I'm not sure whether it's specifically been targeted, but it looks really relevant to this. We've already talked about business analytics, data-driven decision making. I started to self-learn and then study. And as we saw from the job ad, they're talking a lot about learning and studying and incorporating skills. And as we see here, incorporating my skills and learn through business intelligence and data analytics tasks. So this is the bio already really, really helps because it's giving me a real flavor for what this person wants to do and why they might be interested in the role. So let's see, education first, cool. Electronics, mechatronics. If we pause for a moment, Masters in Business Analytics. So this is already quite interesting, given that the amounts they've talked about data in this job description. There's a lot of data talk. There's a lot of talk of data analytics, and I think they even say at the bottom, if I remember, you should be. Did they say you should be interested in data analytics or something like that? Where are we? Well, even if there we are, a keen interest in data analytics is a plus. Okay. So what we're seeing is already from the education, someone who, has got, a strong interest in what the role is doing. So let's scroll down and get the first bit of experience. Fantastic. Medical diagnostics, after sales. Working with teams, member of the countrywide education committee, taught analytics and troubleshooting. Workflow improvements, that's all good, because again, I think they were talking about, well, they were talking about a configuration tool for pricing, engaging in data analysis, and collaborating with experts. And what we have here is working in international environments, member of a company-wide education committee, taught analytical techniques, workflow improvements, interdepartmental liaison. So all of this is quite interesting. I do have I would have one question about this CV, but I'll save that until the end of this CV. You'll see why. So let's go down. So relevant skills. Okay, this is really, I like this. This is quite, again, it's easy to read. If I have only a little bit of time to read a CV, this is quite well laid out. It's easy to find stuff. For example, if I was looking for something like Python, Pandas, NumPy, I can immediately see them. So that's all good. And then I think specifically for this role, relevant trainings and certificates. What I'm seeing is a lot of Coursera. To me, that says that this is someone who goes out of their way to learn about stuff they're interested in. And again, when we've looked at the job description, what we're seeing is that they want someone who's going to learn, someone who's going to build. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. So this is fantastic. Let's go down. Oh, you've got hobbies. Great. Hobbies it's entirely up to you, I think, whether you want to put it on a CV. To me, it's never gonna, I've never brought someone on, or rather chosen to talk to someone because of their hobbies. So it's never it's never gonna change a decision, but it might, it might make conversations easier to start, for example. So, for example, if I was talking to this person, I say, "Oh, you do running? What sort of length of runs do you do?" I do this and that sort of thing. When it comes to references, again, it's a personal opinion. Personally, I don't have references on my CV because what I want to do is I want to find out as much about the job as possible through all of the talks with hiring managers and recruiters, and then find references who are going to be able to say exactly what I want them to say about those specific areas. Now, it's up to you. If you have a really famous person who you want to give as a reference, maybe that can look good. But I personally don't have references on my CV. I only give those out as requested.
I remember, Leo, we had this conversation
Yeah.
with you exactly like that.
Yeah,
Amazing that
exactly.
it came up now.
Yeah. No, so as a bit of background, I met Lydia at another recruitment event way back in, what was it, November, I think? Yeah.
Autumn last year, yeah.
Yeah, awesome last year, yeah. So far this CV is great. I absolutely say, yeah, sure. One question I would have though is this person obviously has a lot of experience. Why are they interested in this summer job? might there be another role that they'd actually be more suited to? And again, as a recruiter, what I do is when I see a CV and I think this person seems maybe a bit too senior for this role, as in what can they get from this that they haven't already got? I will always go back to a hiring manager and say, hey, yeah, are there any other roles? Do you think this person's going to get bored? Is there a chance to sort of level up the role? Can we create a new role? That sort of thing. So I think, as I say, I would probably be very interested in talking with this person. It's a big yes from me for this. But one of the questions I would want to have answered during my screening call is what you would get out of it, given, or rather what the candidate would get out of it, given their sort of quite like long experience already.
And Leo, here, the most
Mm.
popular answer to that is that my experience is from abroad, from my
Mm.
country, and this exact job is a great chance for me to start my career in Finland and to learn the ways of
Yeah,
how
that,
things are done in Finland. Would that be a good answer?
yeah, it's great to me at least. I would, yeah. I think it's really, really brave to be able to move country and to be able to say, hey, like this is where I want to be now. When I moved from Britain to Finland in 2015, I had basically no network here. I had a Finnish girlfriend. Um, and yeah, a lot of people said, but why on earth, why are you applying for this job? And I was saying, look, I want to get started. I want to find my place in Finland. I want to get started on my career. And this would be a really good entry point. So I absolutely understand that answer. I personally think that's a really valid answer. If someone says that, that's great. But then I would also say to them, okay, great. So you have all this experience. Given what you've seen from the job description, what do you want to get out of that? And that I think is the bit which would probably really help decide whether we move forward.
Thank you for explaining. So you would definitely invite this person for a call.
Yeah, again, based on this job description and this CV, I'd absolutely want to talk and learn more about where they are, what they want to do, all that. Yeah.
Mhm. We can move on. We have really different job ads,
Yeah.
which is very good, and different levels and different complexity.
Yeah, no, this was a really interesting job ad. Because I think as I read it, it's quite senior. So this is very different already with the leveling to the other two. Um, and so this is very much as I read it, a managerial role. Um, with not just like a managerial role, but you're also going to be sort of creating and driving processes. So the first thing I highlighted is, yeah, wide operations team of up to 50 employees. That's what you're going to be managing. So I would want to be seeing some experience of team leading before. There are leadership roles in companies where they're happy to take someone who's maybe had an informal lead or who wants to take that next step. That's absolutely fine. But I think if you're expected to lead teams of 50 people, I think it would be difficult to make an argument to a hiring manager for someone who's never done that before. Not impossible, but difficult, let's say. Focusing particularly on customer satisfaction and process compliance. Now, I will dive into this a little bit more when we talk about the role. But I think what we're going to find is that I think what you would find is when you're talking with the company, those will be KPIs that you'll be expected to follow. So if you have worked with customer satisfaction before, I would absolutely want to see some wins, some data on what you've been doing. So I want to see maybe you've maintained really high customer satisfaction, or maybe you've built it up. Before you joined, it was really low, and well, after you'd worked there, it went up. So that's what I would want to be seeing there. Assisting in building out the function globally. So this doesn't necessarily mean that you've done recruitment, but what it means is that you have worked on teams that have grown and that maybe you've been part of those processes. So let's scroll down to the responsibilities, because a lot of this is going to sort of tie together. This is quite, I would call this quite a tight job ad. And what I mean by that is that it's quite well written and everything sort of works together. So day-to-day management of various teams. And they've actually listed the sort of the areas you're going to be working in. So again, if you've ever worked with onboarding or mobility analysts, or if you've managed other team leads, this would be something really good to mention. KPI review and management. So again, if you've worked with this stuff, if you've worked with KPIs, either implementing them, or if you have some really impressive numbers of KPIs that you've met or even exceeded, this would be really important to get on the CV. Improving customer-facing processes is going to be difficult to get on the CV, but it's absolutely something the recruiter will want to talk about in the interview. So what it might be is that you mention one thing. You might say, "Hey, in my role, you say I implemented this process, which had this result." And what it means is the recruiter can see that and thinks, I need to ask about that when I talk with them. Next thing, business analytics to perform root cause analysis activities. This is going to be an interesting one. It depends what they mean by this, but essentially, I'd absolutely want to see that you've used data to make decisions in your previous role. Direction for multiple complex and related projects. So this is essentially project management. Have you managed multiple projects? Have you managed multiple teams at once? Team lead performance, we've kind of touched on that with the day-to-day management of teams. And then implementation of staff training, quality assurance, and development performance programs. So, for example, have you been involved in training the employees that you've been working with or under or above? Essentially that, have you done employee training before? If you have, this will be really important to get in there. So let's go to the requirements. Yeah, experiencing managing 30 to 50 employees. Previous business experience in customer support, complaints. So again, if you've worked in those, absolutely mention them. Experience running projects, project management, mentoring. As we said, if you've mentored or you've taught colleagues, really important to get on here. The pink bit is the demonstrated ability and commitment to go above and beyond the daily expectations of role duties when required. This is going to be really difficult to show in a CV, just be super frank. Like I don't know how I'd do that. This would be something you would discuss with the recruiter. And to me, at least, this is a bit of a this kind of shows that the job might be quite sort of fast-paced, quite intense. There might be times when you might be working overtime, and this is something to ask the recruiter about. Be quite upfront about this.
It's like how to write that we expect you to work over weekends and overtime. Just write above and beyond the daily expectations, right?
Not always. This is it. Again, when as a recruiter, when you're working on a job description for the hiring manager, at the end of the day, usually the hiring manager they're the decision maker. And so if they say, hey, I want to have above and beyond in the job description, and you say as a recruiter, this might turn some people away, and they say, no, like this is what I expect. Sometimes you don't have an option. There could also be that they mean something else by it. So this is something that really depends what they mean, but it's something you would absolutely ask the recruiter about. For example, is there contractual overtime? Is it paid? How does it work? What do they mean by this? History of taking ownership and driving results. So again, KPIs. Do you have, And I think quite a lot of the time people will say, like, tell us about your wins. And what we mean by this is tell us about the things that you're proud of. You know, did you, like, for example, maybe you started leading a team and that team's productivity jumped 50%. That's a win. That's absolutely something you put on a CV. And then here we are. This line confused me a bit because it's quite different to the rest of the CV, the job description. You can break complex problems into smaller ones and enjoy working with data. So far, so fine. Then using tools such as SQL, and Google Sheets. Again, if you have experience with SQL or Google Sheets, that's great. Specifically with Google Sheets, I would probably just put that I've used it, because I think trying to describe what you can do with Google Sheets it's very difficult to do it well on a CV specifically. That's much more a discussion for an interview. But yeah, let's see the CV. See what we've got. I'm interested in the bio on the right, actually. If someone's got a bio, I always want to read that.
Let's check it
because
first, like
yeah,
this,
I always like to read bios
because
because I
it's
think
so small, we will not be able to see it. Let's read it first.
fantastic. Great. Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Now we make it a little bit smaller.
Yeah. So what have we got? Operations manager. Oh, that's very small.
It's too small. Sorry, I will fix
That's all
that.
right.
Let's focus on experience then.
Good. Yeah, that's good. I think that works there. Cool.
Yeah.
So managed and successfully grew one of the e-commerce customer care accounts from a startup business to a 10 million USD revenue business. This account started. Okay. Proactive development strategy through continuous forward-thinking scenario planning. Major part of my work must have been. Fantastic. Okay. Able to grow the business and keep an organized mindset. So we already have a win in here, which is in the first two lines. Manage an account. Grew it from a startup to a 10 million USD annual revenue business. So that's a win. That's an achievement. It's something that you should be proud of. That's really cool. And again, yeah. So other areas of responsibility have been analyze and monitor daily operations and meet and exceed the client's set targets and standards. Daily communication with clients, vendor management, headcount planning for teams, cost management. Okay. I think one opportunity that the person whose CV this is with the other areas of responsibility, that first point, I think you have an opportunity to really give a win about how you've exceeded the client's targets and standards. Like I would put a win there, because that tells me, the recruiter, much more about your work. So I think that would be a really, really good opportunity. So let's go down again. Here we go. Technical support team leader. Fantastic. Motivating, coaching, developing a team of 15 tech support agents to ensure that excellent customer service and targeted business results are delivered. Fantastic. Great. Radisson Blue, managing front office, managing schedules. Yeah. My team won the internal competition for best performing hotel team. Fantastic. Again, great win. Shows that not only are you managing a team, but you're doing it really well. Tech support team leader. Yeah, fantastic. Good. And yeah, founder, technical support, hotel. Yeah, cool. Fantastic. And then let's go down this side. We've got
Check languages. Oh my God.
I'm wildly jealous. Swedish native. Fantastic. English, yeah, German, Danish, Norwegian, Finnish. Great. Okay. So what we have is a CV that absolutely matches quite a few of the requirements. We clearly have some team leadership experience. We clearly have some work with KPIs. I mean, you don't win awards without beating your targets. And again, I think anyone who has worked in sales and has grown an account, I think knows quite a lot about targets, about working with people, and all that sort of area. And again, I'm really happy to see that someone's got a win so early on in their CV because it tells the recruiter a lot. So, but I mean, based on this, I would absolutely be happy to invite this person for an interview. What I would be asking them though is I'd be saying, hey, so you've managed teams of 15. That's great. What do you think the challenge will be in managing, for example, like 2 or 3 times that amount? You know, what do you think the challenge will be? How would you go about it? That sort of thing. And I'm not looking necessarily for a specific answer. What I want to see is that they've thought about this, that they have considered the fact that a team of 50 is very different to a team of 15, and that those 50 will include other team leaders who are managing other people. If we just go back to the job description just quickly, if we go down to the bit which says SQL, and the more I read here, the more I'm a little bit confused as to why SQL is in there. It might be that you might need to use it. I think that would be something to ask the recruiter and say how much do I already need to know? How much training will you give? Because if it's just Google Sheets, that, in my experience at least, is relatively easy to learn, and that's not a big blocker. If they're actively requiring SQL, that could be an issue. But again, based on this job description, that's something I'd want to talk to the candidate about. I'd want to say, hey, like this is what we require. I didn't see it on your CV, but I know the CV isn't the full description of you. So tell me more. And yeah, I think if you get an interview, absolutely ask them what they mean by above and beyond.
All right, so it's a yes, and we
Yeah,
will move on. I'm trying to manage time as
yeah.
well.
Summer trainee, project planning,
Because we
fantastic.
have 18 minutes and we have
Yeah,
2 job ads, and I thought maybe
sure,
we can still take 1, 2 questions. Maybe
sure,
we make it a little bit faster if
can
you
do.
can.
Absolutely. Yeah, so summer trainee. I think the key thing to see here is that they're looking for someone in the final studying stages, so their final year. To me, what that means is that it would be difficult to get a hiring manager to talk to someone who's not in their final year of studying. If that sounds really obvious, it's because I think some people want to apply earlier on, but that is kind of maybe one of the most important things about this job ad is that they're looking for someone in the final stages. Maybe they want to, have an internship which then turns into a job. We're not sure. But let's go down to the about you. So educational background seems important here. They've actually been quite specific. Engineering, specifically industrial engineering, or energy technology in final study stages. So again, if you're not in the final stages of study, it's going to be difficult to move forwards because that at least again, according specifically to the job ad, that seems to be what they want. And then good knowledge of MS Project. So that seems to be some tech that they use. It might not be, again, depending on the talk with the hiring manager, it might not be a sort of an absolute blocker. But if you've used an MS Project, absolutely put it on your CV because they've mentioned it specifically. then let's have a look at the CV, because this is quite a short job description. Let's see what we've got.
Okay.
Fantastic. Masters in energy engineering. That's great. So immediately, that would be one of the first things I'd look for is the education in the right sector. Yes, it is. Fantastic. So professional experience. What have we got? 3D modeling, fabrication, project planning. So we've seen, I think, as a summer trainee, you'll be managing the project schedules, and that's in the job description. And here we have something about project planning. So led project planning sessions. That's great. It's all good. If I remember, this is, yeah, cool. So an academic experience. Let's see. What have we got? Working with Metso, that's good. I mean, specifically for this role again, because they've mentioned industrial energy management or energy technology. Metso is quite it's quite a good company. Like they're quite big in that field. Again, this isn't something I'd say no because of, but it's something I'd absolutely want to know more of. And actually, what I might do is I'd reach out to the candidate and say, hey, are you in your final year of study? Because I can't tell so far from this. 2023 to present, it doesn't tell me if it's the final year. I don't know how long the master's is. So I would absolutely really make that clear. I mean, I might reach out in an email and just say, hey, if you're in your final year, let's talk. But if not, then it's a no. Let's scroll. Let's keep going down a bit though. Let's just see the rest. Yeah. So yeah, again, a lot of experience here in working with other people, coordinating cross-functional teams, multiple stakeholders. That's great. I mean, the job description literally says cooperate with multiple stakeholders, so really well done there. That's fantastic. If we go down to the bottom, let's just see. I always like to see the full CV. So additional tech skills: Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Power BI, Jira, Asana. So yeah, MS Project isn't mentioned. It really does depend on how important it is to the hiring manager. I think if I was working with the hiring manager on this, I'd be saying, look, if someone has other project management software experience, like, Jira or that sort of thing, is that okay? Because once you've used one, you can probably learn the others. But based on the CV and this job description alone, yeah, I'd want to talk on the basis that you are in your final stages of your master's. And the reason for that is probably, not guaranteed, but probably they might be wanting this role to transition into a full-time role, which you would be difficult to do if you weren't in your final stage.
Thank you for that.
No
So
worries.
it's a yes, but then you will
Yeah,
clarify this one thing.
it's a yes as long, yeah, a yes if.
And the final one is this one.
Continuous improvement. Yeah, this is what I had to do a bunch of Googling here to find out what some of this stuff means. It's not something that I have a whole host of experience in. If I was the recruiter, I would absolutely learn what all this stuff means so that I can talk about it. But what we want to be seeing is there's going to be essentially probably quite a lot of keywords that we want to see in this CV. We want to see that you've been working with, for example, safety, quality, delivery, cost. We want to see that you've been working with specifically lean manufacturing initiatives. We want to see that, we probably want to see that you've been working with value streams, TIP plans and KPIs. That's what I would be looking for in this CV. Other bits would be motivating and coaching employees. So again, mentoring would be a good keyword to look for. There we go. And then let's go down to the ideal candidate. Yeah, so industrial engineering degree or related fields. So something along those lines for study. Experience and it says excellent understanding of lean manufacturing philosophy, tools, and methods. I'd want to see that you've been using them, basically. Have you used lean manufacturing philosophy? Have you got managerial experience in a manufacturing environment? If so, how many people would be great to know. Deal with people at all levels is essentially, have you worked with different stakeholders? Robust metrics implies that you've probably got some quite hard KPIs. So you're probably going to have some quite hard targets. So if you can show that you've met difficult targets before, that would be great. And this final line, Sigma 6 black belt or green belt, if you have one of those, put it on the CV, make it visible, because that will encompass a lot of the other things required here. So let's see the CV. Lean process engineer, it's already great. We've seen lean manufacturing. So let's see what's value stream. Again, this is fantastic. This is good. Yeah. So yeah, we've already in the first two lines got a couple of really relevant keywords. We've got lean, we've got value. Fantastic. Lean culture. Reduced operational and process wastages by 13%. That's a great win. Reduced on-site equipment failure by 15%. And you've even got SQD, SQDC specifically in there. And again, with a really solid win there, 82% reduction. This is good. Executed just-in-time philosophy. Process view, implemented flow process, value stream mapping. That's good. Implemented a case. So already in this first paragraph, we have quite a lot of the things that we're looking for in the job description. So this is fun. This is good. What I haven't seen yet, but maybe we'll see later, is employee management, or essentially managing other people. So implemented. Fantastic. Yeah. Industrial and engineering and management. Great. So that makes sense. That works. I assume August 2023 is the graduation date if there's just one date. So that's good. Fantastic. Can we go up to the experience again just quickly? Because I say I haven't seen I thought there
I
was
cannot
something.
find people management here.
No, maybe I've misread then. That's okay.
I mean, in the CV, I cannot see that.
It's all right. No worries. It's all right. That's fine. I mean,
you're expected to motivate and coach employees, so there should be some kind of experience working with people, if not directly reporting to you, but at least in a metric structure.
Absolutely. So what would be missing here so far is that sort of motivating and coaching employees. Now, again, it depends how important this is to the hiring manager. Is that sort of a nice to have? Like if someone's done it, is that good? Or is it sort of going to be like a key part of your sort of day-to-day tasks? So yeah, that would be a question. I think that would be something I'd bring up in an interview. So I would probably be interested in talking with this person again if I was the recruiter for this role. Because again, a lot of the stuff matches, and what I'd be wanting to see is what it looks like. Like I want to see how you can describe what you've been doing. Are you going beyond what's on the CV? And again, having a conversation about the experience in motivating and coaching employees.
If during these interviews I would say no, they didn't have any experience in this area, would you go to a hiring manager or would it be a no?
Personally, I would. I If it's mentioned in the job description, it means that it's at least preferred. And so yeah, while it's not an immediate no, um, I would ask a hiring manager. I'd go and say, hey, we have this person. They match both, like, a lot of the things we want, but they've never done sort of like employee, coaching, that sort of thing. They've um, never done that sort of stuff. Is that a blocker? But again, I'd want to talk with the candidate to establish that first.
Right, but it's a yes, so it's nice
Yeah.
to hear that you would talk to them. And we have 5 minutes left, and maybe someone would like to take this chance to ask you a question. And guys, don't worry, there will be one whole session, one whole hour for you to ask questions later. One question that popped into my mind is actually about how many CVs do you present to the hiring manager or to the hiring team?
Super good question. That often depends on how senior the role is. So the more senior the role, the fewer CVs you're presenting. For example, I'm working, for example, in my current role on some more entry-level roles where I'm presenting 15, 20 different CVs to the hiring manager. And I'm working on a very, very senior director level role where I presented two. As I say, if you get a bunch of really interesting people, I like to present a lot of people to the hiring manager. I want them to understand what the candidates look like, like what the market for candidates looks like. But it really does depend on how like senior the role is.
Wonderful. And maybe someone else would like to ask. You can even put your camera on if you wish or write in chat.
Just back to that question, I see the question in the chat. You were asking if you have like 100 CVs, do you aim to present a certain percentage of them? No, I don't, at least. I only want to present CVs that are relevant to the role. Does more experience make it difficult for a person to be applicable for a summer trainee job? Yes and no. What you've got to remember, I think, with a lot of summer trainee jobs is that the expectation is that this person is going to learn, and the way that they succeed, is by learning, and maybe hopefully staying with the company. Now, if if it's, for example, a very entry level role and you've been working in that for a good few, that same industry, that same experience before, you probably won't benefit as much from the role as someone who is more entry level. So it's difficult to say whether more experience makes it more difficult. I say more experience specifically in what the role is doing might do. More experience in something else probably won't. But it's difficult to say yes or no specifically there. And we've got, if the job is junior level, how much can we change the CV to match? I have more than 10 years experience. I mean, the basic answer to that is a lot. You can always change your CV to match the job. Trying to think of the best way to answer. Again, it depends where your experience is. If you have 10 years experience in the same job that you're applying for, it's going to be difficult for a recruiter to propose that person to a hiring manager because, I mean, there are, because we always have to think about, especially with an entry-level role, who's going to benefit the most. So it depends on where the experience is from. And are there any particular things you look for from someone currently living outside Finland to increase the chances of CV getting shortlisted? I assume that's based on applying for a job in Finland. I think maybe one of the main things would be the date you're going to be in Finland. Depending on, again, there are so many things it depends on. It depends on if the company is willing to help with relocation. It depends on how urgent the need for the role is, that sort of thing. So yeah,